elder. But the real point that really stands out, and that's to be expected that one's will, even I and myself, even if we have been critical about some of the things that have been done or should have been done by the elders from the previous generation, we recognize the kubur, or the honor. You understand? It's still for us to be honorable. Regardless if others are not, we should still be honorable. And as far as we have known the elder, because this elder, Bongo Rocky, and Mama Baby I, years ago, Line and Judas had, we had, along with the Nyabinghi house that was on Halsey, 150, 157, something like that, 157 Halsey Street, down the road, so to speak, from where we are at presently. We were asked to write a letter on behalf of this elder to come from Jamaica, and then also with the U.S. authorities to allow him to move forward to Ethiopia, him and his sister and his wife, Mama Baby I, his sister, and for both of them to go up as a couple to represent the Nyabinghi. And we had drafted documentation to that effect back in the 90s, or sometime in the 90s, somewhere around the mid or so 90s. And there are witnesses from that. And our letter, as well as other letters, were instrumental in helping to open up the way for the Ethiopian, Jamaican, U.S. authorities to have that brother and his sister, Mama Baby I, Bongo Rocky, and Mama Baby I, to go to Ethiopia and to repatriate and to supervise the tabernacle, the building of the tabernacle, because that's what was going on at that present time. The famous flyer that's out there with the hands and the tabernacle and the picture of His Imperial Majesty, the certificate that was given to ones and ones for donations that were being submitted for the building of the tabernacle. And if we have it, able to get it, we'll try to put in the video version of this so you can see it for yourself. So that elder, from our own personal interaction with him while he was here, and while Mama Baby I was here as well, we gave thanks and praise for them to have that knowledge and history and experience and to share with us what they could. And it was upful, you understand, according to what we knew at that present time. So for someone who's happy to see them go forward. And that's basically that from our perspective of our interaction with Bongo Rocky while he was here. It was good to get a more grounded Rastafari, because a lot of us Rastafari are like in the city. So him coming out of Jamaica was bringing that more, what they call country vibe. That it's a different flow. You understand? It's a different flow. And even if man of mine wasn't all like a lot of us are now more intellectual and more into the scriptures and the science of it, they still were able to perceive a lot from the point of view that they were able to receive it. But still at the same time, there's unfinished work that's left to us of this present generation. And seeing that his passing has occurred right around the New Year's time, and within what's known as the 10 days of awe, between Rosh Hashanah and between the Yom Kippur or Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement, are what's known as the 10 days of awe in our Ethiopic Hebraic root, from the root of the glory of His Imperial Majesty, from the Bible, and our Hebrew and Beta Israel roots as a people, Ethiopian Hebrews. So it's interesting that he was born on the 12th and passed on the 15th, and both of those dates are within what's known as the 10 days of awe. You understand? The 10 days of awe. So this is significant, moreover, to us to move forward. You know what I'm saying? To learn from the mistakes of the past and to really get our divine heritage properly aligned, because there's a whole alignment that's coming up. As many already know, the whole 2012 is significant to us from an Ethiopic perspective. But the issue that we want to address here, as we mentioned before, just sharing some of the summary ideas and thoughts, is on what should be done rightfully. Rastafari, how should Rastafari rightfully handle issues and matters of death as mature Rastafari? And what does it mean, like when we say I not die, and then a situation like this arises? You understand? So that the adversaries don't find occasion, you understand, to mock our Godfather, mock Abba Qiddus Kedus, Abba Nagast, Nagast. We need to be rightly founded on the teachings of His Imperial Majesty. So the next thing that we would like to touch on is the Fetha, Nagast, and one small section actually, because we said, well, what is spoken of from a Ethiopian and the Ethiopic root and the root of His Majesty, and from the teaching of His Majesty concerning death. There are certain books that have been composed for a ritualization of the whole funeral and the whole death, you could say the death ritual within the Ethiopian church. And that ceremony that has been ceremonialized. But what is the basic teaching? We find some of the basic teaching in the Fetha Nagast. And there's 3 pages from page 122 to actually a small portion of page 124. And it's actually the last part of the first part of the Fetha Nagast, or the Law of Kings. There's a first part and there's a second part to this book. The book has like 2 parts. One part has certain church and related general matters concerning the church, and then there is a second part which governs more like laws governing secular or worldly matters. So the last part of the last chapter, which is chapter 22, and 22 is the end of the Hebrew, you could say alphabet, like when they say Alpha Omega, the 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet is Tau, or some say Tav, is Te, or Tawe, you understand, Tawa, or Tau. Tau also means to leave, or to leave it alone in that sense. It also is the sign of the cross, which is interesting. Alpha, Omega. I am the Alpha. You understand, to say the living and the dead. I am the Alpha, the Omega, because the Omega is symbol of death. You understand, in the ancient. Really, it's a symbol of change in current and energy. You understand, or a stasis of energy, or a translation of energy, which to those who are in the energy is like what we call death in that sense. So we have the Tau and 22nd chapter, and the 22nd chapter concerning the dead and concerning death is what I think we as Rastafari in alignment with our divine heritage need to know, because an elder has passed away, and now many of our prayers are hoping, you understand, that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church decides to help out in this situation concerning the passing of the Nyabinghi Elder Bongo Rocky. Because if they do not, then as in the past, as Rastafari's A.R. King pointed out from Ethiopia in his email, that ones who have passed, other elders have been buried here and there, you understand, and it's really a difficult thing for a lot of the so-called Rastas out there and the Rastafari who are not conformed to the teaching of His Imperial Majesty, who have not been transformed in the renewing of their mind according to the teaching of His Imperial Majesty to handle situations like that. So it shows a great immaturity and a disobedience of us not going into the teaching of His Imperial Majesty and growing up. If we take His name upon us and our identification with Him, then we should identify with Him in spirit and in truth, in the fullness of it. So we're going to touch on the 22nd chapter of the Fetha Nagast, the Law of the Kings, and the version of this is the one that has been approved of by Nagast Nagast, by Kedamawi Haile Selassie Kedus, Abba and Abba Qiddus. So it begins off here, and it says the dead in the church, which is the Beta Christian. All these terms have to be, first of all, before we go into this, let's just say a couple of words. We need to understand what the words that we're using mean. So when we say church, We need to understand it both in the connotation, that means the way that it's used nowadays, as well as in the etymological, that means from the rootical, from the foundation, from the essential. That means if it's in the language, if it's in the Greek, or if it's in the Hebrew or the Ethiopic, we need to have a good working knowledge. You understand? A working knowledge, so when we get these ideas, we'll be able to see them in their proper context and not to get caught up on the nonsense, so we can progress, so we can move forward. All right?